what is a digital whiteboard and Miro tips and hints? That's what we're talking about today. So we'll get started. Um, and I'll bring the people that are on the board with us today. And in the session, I'll bring everyone to me. And I just wanted to start off. And David, as you know, jump in at any point if you have any thoughts. But there are three sort of tools for these digital whiteboards that exist sort of in the marketplace. Three leaders at Miro, which we're using today, and we use quite a lot. Mural, which is also a really good tool. It's pretty much neck and neck with Miro in terms of functionality. There's a slight difference, um, but it's a very good tool as well. We've used it on projects as well. It's very interchangeable with Miro. And then there's Microsoft Whiteboard, which it doesn't really compare at this point in terms of functionality, but it's created by Microsoft, so it's free and it's super accessible to a lot of people. So hence why I've put it there. So the big difference between Miro and Mural really is Miro is a bit better for sort of teamwork and working together on a board asynchronously and doing some cool designs of boards on it. Mural's a little bit better if you want to facilitate a workshop and you want to have more powers than the sort of workshop participants. There's a few more sort of functionality to help you as a facilitator with Mural. But as I said, super interchangeable, those two platforms. The main reason we've stuck with Miro is pretty much because biggest clients have been using that as like a sort of an agreement. They've obviously set up with the companies. So yeah, we've used both of them and they're both very good tools. So the different types of boards that we've used and we've seen being created are project boards, presentation boards, workshop boards, and dashboards. So we've got this little picture of an iceberg to try to visualize that a bit. The project boards is where it all starts. I guess it's another way to name that whiteboard that you'd have in your office that every now and then you'd go and you'd write some stuff on, and after a while it would turn into this mess of all these ideas, but it's digital. It's captured on a Miro board. You can put a lot more structure around it, and you can keep logging back into that project board as you go. And so eventually you may want to say, okay, there's this bit of information here I'd like to workshop with someone, or I'd like to present with someone, or I'd like to track how that is going, that little bit of information which is on this sort of messy or organized sort of project board or this whiteboard. And then you'd potentially workshop using a digital whiteboard. And then you design some activities around what you want to do, or you design your board to present to someone, or equally as a dashboard to track something. So they're the four sort of types of boards that we see and we've used. And here's an example of a project board. So this was a project we worked on where we had a bit of a template that we set up around implementation of an asset management framework. So we had a bit of an agreement of a project plan, and we thought, let's put that on the board so all the team members can see that, a sort of universal spot for this. Also, there was a change management plan put in this central sort of location. All the team members had the link to this board. It was also laid out the approach for the implementation and created the deliverables through a various number of meetings virtually and workshopping to create these deliverables for this implementation project. And then some of the work started to happen on this same board. The final guidelines and documents weren't loaded up here as a final thing. That's not where, I think that's where these digital whiteboards will stop. But a lot of the idea generation of, oh, what do we want to put in there? What do we want to put in here? These project boards and these meetings that you have were really helpful for that. And then finally, there's this area here where comms was, materials was created and brainstormed and workshopped, all on this one project board. So a presentation board, we're using a presentation board now. So we've got some information we want to share with you guys. The reason why we're using Miro instead of presenting it on traditional PowerPoint is because, one, we want to show you the tool, and two, it gives you guys the chance to add sticky notes and give us feedback as we go on different bits of slides and work through the tool and the different functionality as we go. So presentation board, very similar to what you would do in PowerPoint, but there's a bit more sort of two-way engagement. Then we go into the workshop board. So this is another example of an opportunity framing workshop board. So we've got some pre-work section up the top here with generic slides and empty row of frames. There was some context that was setted. So there was some set area there for a presentation of context. There's some facilitation tools that have been laid on the board. And you can see there's quite a big chunk of this area over here on activities. All of those 6 activities individually added up to this opportunity framing process we wanted to take people through virtually using a digital whiteboard. So a lot of design work goes into that because you've got people for a certain bit of time and you want to try to extract as much as you can information out from them. So there's a lot of design work in workshop boards. They've got to be much more structured than the other types of boards. A dashboard. So an example of a dashboard was this schedule we had. There was some training we ran a while ago, and we needed to manage who's accepted, who's needs to move to a different session, which time zone are they in. When we send the invite, is it going to be the right time zone? There's quite a few things to manage, and that could have been done in Excel, it could have been done in other tools, but we did it in Miro because it was a good way to collaborate and for a bunch of us to have the link and to be able to update that quite collaboratively. And you can see there's lots of comments all over here, and there would have been a few meetings definitely with this as the agenda to sort of check in on this. Yeah, they're the types of Miro boards, just as we're setting context now. Some of the types of collaboration that you get when you use a digital whiteboard is you've got synchronous collaboration. So that's often when you've got a meeting or when you've got a workshop, you'll all be on the meeting on the Miro board or the digital whiteboard, adding ideas, going through activities synchronously. And that's a really good type of collaboration. But what's also really great about these digital whiteboards is the asynchronous collaboration. So for example, when you're working with people in different time zones, you could have a board open and you'll wake up the next day and you'll see there's some work that's been done on your project board by someone on their time zone, or you may not have a busy Tuesday and may not get the chance to tackle any work on this one project board, and someone else has been able to easily go onto it and collaboratively sort of add comments and give you feedback so you know what's going on when you come back on the board. It's a bit more collaborative, I guess, than you would say a track changes document or a spreadsheet or something like that. So it's a really good feature with these Miro boards. So now to something we've learned sort of the last few years using digital whiteboards, what they are and what they aren't. Whiteboards are really good for creativity, documenting ideas, sharing ideas, creativity, sort of the similar stuff that you would have done in a physical office with a physical whiteboard, except everything is captured and you can be a lot more organized with that. It's really good for brainstorming, it's categorizing, moving ideas, asynchronous working, continual reflection, lots of things that it's really good for. However, we've learned that some of the things they're not good for is not good for final deliverables. So if you want to create a really good guideline or a good document, you can workshop that on Miro and have ideas and brainstorm. But at some point, you've got to create that document in a Word document or in Excel or PowerPoint, because they're the tools that we use in business. Again, detailed analysis of lots of data. At some point, if you brainstorm lots of ideas, you can export that. But at some point, if you really want to knuckle down into the data, you really need to be using Excel to do that effectively. Writing a report as well. Yeah, this is a good tool for brainstorming ideas, but writing a detailed report, deliverables, isn't what this is for. So storing intellectual properties like little pictures, or a really good example is there's features here to add to create process flows. The issue with using that feature, we find, is that that process flow is then stuck in Miro, where most often you'd want that in a Microsoft product, I guess, like for the longevity of that valuable process that you've gone to all this time to make. There's no way to export that out at this point. So I guess valuable sort of information at some point needs to be exported into different tools is, I guess, the key message here. Definitely, no, that's a good point. And what's good about the digital whiteboards is you can link PDF documents next to your thoughts, or you can export your sticky notes into text for a PowerPoint pack, where I guess if you were to do that manually, you'd need to read someone's handwriting and type that out. And that's not always so easy. So what we have here is a QR code, and hopefully those who are watching via the recording can also scan this. There's a QR code here which will give you access to a bunch of cards, which will give you more resources to continue learning about digital whiteboards if that interests you. However, we'll keep moving on and get into the sort of nuts and bolts of this, the actual functionality stuff about using Miro. So I hope we've been able to set a bit of context for those who maybe dialed into the meeting that we did last time and hadn't seen Miro before and got through the whole meeting but wasn't really sure in context what is a digital whiteboard. Hopefully we've explained that a little bit now, and now we can talk about some of the key functionality basics for using Miro. So I think one of the most important parts is navigation, because it is a bit of a different tool in terms of navigating. When you use something like Word or Excel, PowerPoint, the navigation's quite not as sort of free-flowing, I guess, as Miro with this sort of big open canvas screen. So getting ahead of that, on top of that, is really useful. So I've got a screenshot here, and what you want to do is up in the main menu here. So next to where it says the name of the Miro board, there's 3 lines on the top left-hand side of the screen. If you click that main menu button and go down to preferences and go mouse or trackpad, hopefully it's set up as auto detect, that's hopefully what it's set up as. And what it's detected is that I don't have a keyboard and mouse set up. So it's defaulted to trackpad, which means I've got lots of ability with my fingers to use the trackpad to zoom in and out quite effectively. If I had a keyboard and mouse, I could easily click on this mouse option, which will give that same sort of zoom in and zoom out, will be the scroller of a mouse. So if you have a keyboard and mouse, or if you've just got a laptop, there's 2 options for navigating and zooming in and out you might want to be aware of. So equally, an even more manual way to do it, in the bottom right-hand side of the screen, there's a plus and a minus to zoom in and zoom out. So if all else fails, that's a good way to zoom in and zoom out. There's also, in this little pop-up sort of menu bar that shows up here, you'll see there's a map. So if you click on that, it'll pin the map. So you can equally open that up and click to different areas of the board, and it'll take you to there. I don't tend to use it too much, because I'm quite comfortable with a trackpad of sort of zooming in and zooming out as I am now. Because you do have to be quite accurate with where you want to click, and I don't use it too often, but it is there, a map. So another feature there. So one more sort of feature to talk about when we're talking about navigation is if you hold down spacebar, you can see my cursor's changed from a sort of normal conventional sort of mouse cursor to a sort of hand. When you do that, if you hold down spacebar and then click and drag, you can see that you're not picking up or selecting any objects below there, and you can move from side to side. So this is really good if you've got a lot of ideas, or you've got a lot of things on the board and you don't want to accidentally click on those things, but you want to sort of pan to the left or pan to the right. So you hold down spacebar and it gives you this glove or this hand, and then you click and drag in the direction you want to move. And so they're the sort of basics for the navigation. So the key is if all else fails, those plus and minus zooms in the bottom right-hand corner, those settings is really good. And holding down spacebar and click and dragging will be able to let you pan without selecting objects. All right, so templates. So to save a lot of time, with these project boards, with these dashboards, with any types of boards that you're building. If you've got a Miro account, and this goes with Mural as well, it's all the same with these sort of tools. Big library of templates, which will make the whole design process of a board or for a project or for a workshop or a meeting even a lot quicker to design. So people often upload their own ones. You can see there's lots of Miro ones, templates for different types of scenarios, mapping and diagramming, agile workflows. There's a Kanban framework. They're pretty trendy sort of project management sort of to-do list stuff, which you're able to do in Miro. So what I'll do here is I'll click on this project kickoff, or I might go, I might go the Kanban framework. So I'll go click on this and go preview, and it'll hopefully load it up as a preview. And then I'll just add it in as a pre-filled template and we can see how it looks like. So it's that easy. So to make this template out of shapes or something would take quite a bit of time. So it's good that there's lots of these templates that you can use to give yourself a starting point. These templates are very basic and you really are going to want to sort of customize it a bit to what you want to do. But they're a really good starting point and will save you a lot of time. This saved us a lot of time. Equally, we extensively use, you can create custom templates. So instead of custom templates, these publicly ones are really good, but we've got our own sort of way of operating and way we want to do workshops and way we do meetings and how we design our boards, that we've set up a bunch of custom templates. So equally to what we did then, you can create a part of the board and then save it as a template and then be able to access it again by just a click of a button like we did with the Kanban board, and then show up on your board. All right, so frames now, we'll look at frames. So they're really, really useful as a way to sort of structure your board. As you can see, all of these frames that we've set up look almost like slides, conventional slides that you'd use in PowerPoint. So they're a good way to bucket a bunch of information, whether it is in this sort of landscape PowerPoint looking slide type of frame, or equally there are many different types of frames. So to access the frames, you're looking in the left-hand corner, left-hand menu bar. The left-hand side of the screen, this menu bar that you can see there, that's all of the sort of editing tools. So you'll find there, and we'll talk about a bit later, stuff like stickies, text, shapes, tables, all this stuff to create things. You'll find all of that in the left-hand side menu bar. So if I go down to the frame button, you can see you've got a few options here. Custom A4, which is good if you want to play around with what a document or something, letter. 16:9, which is I guess the conventional sort of PowerPoint pin slide one. There's a 4:3 ratio, 1:1. You've got phone, tablet, browser, different ones there if you want to play around with designing a website or something, what it might look like graphically. There's that as well. So again, you just click on one of these frames and it'll add it onto your board, and they will add as work as a sort of bucket for a bunch of information, such as a bunch of sticky notes or an activity, or as we've got here, a slide of information. Okay, so stickies now. So stickies are really important. That's a good point. Every frame that you add on the board will automatically sort of index themselves into this big sort of table of contents, which is a good thing. I definitely need to show. So in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, there's an open frames button. And if you click on that, this is automatically done. You don't have to manually do this. Everything that's in a frame is indexed here in this big list of all the frames on the board. So this is another way to navigate around the board. If your board's organized and in order, you can navigate by clicking on these frames. But by just adding a new frame on the board, it automatically will add a new entry into this table of contents or frame list of frames there. Okay, so stickies. So stickies is probably the functionality that everyone needs to know when we're using these tools for our workshopping. So simply, if you press N on the keyboard and then click somewhere, you can add a sticky. And then just write something in there. So alternatively, again, on this left-hand side screen, which is all the editing tools, editing option bars, you've got here sticky note. So if you click on that, you've got all these different color options, which help when you want to start to categorize ideas or you want to put a bit of a hierarchy to ideas. There's different colors and you're able to sort of design that a bit, which is really helpful. I can see some of the guys adding stickies. That's good. So again, not something to really be too afraid of. If you just press N for Nelly on the keyboard and then click, you can add a sticky note. And it should have a pulsing sort of cursor there, and then you can write straight into that. So sticky notes are really worked hard in these Miro in these digital whiteboards, because this is where all the ideas will be captured. This is the workhorse, I guess, of these digital whiteboards. The one last thing I guess I'll talk about with sticky notes is if you click on an existing sticky note here, you'll see it opens up a new menu bar. That only happens when you open up these sticky notes, and there's quite a few things to look at here. So there's different fonts you can add to your sticky, italics or that. You can change font size. You can bold. So the classic sort of font options. You can change the colors here. You can change the size, as I can see someone's done, which is good. You can add different other things. You can add emojis like thumbs up. If you like someone's idea and you want to give some feedback, you can add different emojis, which is good. You can insert links. So if you wanted to, if there was an idea that was very sort of contextually based off a YouTube video or a website or something that's sort of on a URL link, you could insert that link directly into that. And then when someone sees that sticky note, they could click on that link and understand more context of what's going on. Another really good feature a bit more advanced is if you select, I'm going to select all our stickies now. So I'm going to hold Shift and click and drag and select all our stickies. So I'm going to do a bit of cleaning now, and I'll make them all the same size. And I'll just click on this little button on the right-hand side, and it'll give me the opportunity to sort of just neatly put them all next together so I can see them quite all next together and read them easily. There's an option here for clustering objects. So if I click on that button, I can choose to cluster my ideas by color. And what it's going to do now is split all the ideas for me by color. And I can then go in and say these clusters are yellow category ideas. And you can edit those cluster names. So that's a really good way to have a sort of wild brainstorm activity got started, and then you could potentially analyze your ideas through adding colors, changing the colors of stickies, and then do a bit of analysis quite quickly just by splitting those clusters up. So yeah, stickies really, really worked hard in Miro. They're really good, really helpful, just as they are in physical workshops. Okay, so what I'm going to try to do now is bring across our ideas from before. So we can keep playing with them. I'm going to get rid of the clusters because I'll try to demonstrate as we go through further some other ways to sort of analyze our data. So I'll mix it up a bit again now. So sticky notes are for the sort of original ideas, the sort of core ideas that you have around whatever you're brainstorming, whatever your meeting's about, whatever ideas you have. The sticky notes is the sort of original thought. Comments are not a really good feature, but their main purpose is for adding depth on those original ideas. So if you press C on the keyboard, C for Christopher, and click somewhere, you can add a comment. So you'll see when you press C, your cursor should change. And when your cursor changes and then you click somewhere, you can add a comment. And again, what a comment does is it adds that level of depth when we're doing our brainstorming and workshopping. So I liked this idea. This was a good idea, and I'm able to give a comment. And now what I wanted to say wasn't an idea in itself. It was a feedback. It was a some thoughts on an existing idea. So it's really useful to use that as a way of giving feedback rather than using sticky notes, because you really want the sticky notes to be those ideas, because it makes it easier to export those ideas or into Excel or into PowerPoint after, if you know for sure all the ideas that you're working with, all the sticky notes are ideas. So comments are really good. I can see they're really visible as well, and they link to the sticky note that they were added on. So if I move this sticky note around, you can see the comments are there as well. An important thing about comments is they can't be exported. So they're a really useful feature, but they're going to stick on the whiteboard. So if you export all these sticky notes and do some work with those sticky notes, unfortunately at this point you can't export the comments. So you will need to track back to those comments on the Miro board as you're going through an analysis. I hope that's something that does change, because it would be good to be able to export all those comments as well. Yeah. I guess the last thing I forgot to mention is you can reply to other people's comments and start a thread of back and forth ideas, all on, again, the one original idea. You can have an almost a sort of back and forth conversation, discussion, adding depth to that idea. Right, so now we're looking at add-ons, which is a feature that admittedly we don't really use too much, because I guess the basics of what they include is already quite useful. And so yeah, so if I come down to this left-hand side here and go to the plus button, you'll see on my screen there's a whole bunch of different other features that you can use. You can equally, if it's something that you use quite a bit, you can drag this onto your sort of left-hand side menu bar and include it there so you can use it more often. Some examples of different apps, add-ons that you can get. There's a chart feature. So if I click on that and I want to play with what a chart looks like and edit that, you can do that. So I can play around. I want my chart to be 70-30. Again, these are nice things to have, but if we think about what whiteboards are and aren't, I guess in our opinion, if you're doing charts, if you're working in that space, use Excel, because it is a much better tool for that. There's some cool features on these add-ons. The Kanban board, so we showed you a template around that. There's also a little more app add-on on a Kanban board, which is good. A really cool add-in that, like, admittedly we do use a lot actually, is stickies capture. And I don't have an example to do, but essentially what you can do is you can take a photo of physical sticky notes on a physical wall at a workshop that you're doing and upload it into this stickies capture little app, and it'll turn those physical real sticky notes into Miro sticky notes. And it's pretty good. It often picks up the different colors and the different sticky notes in real life and brings it across into Miro. You do have to do a bit of a spell check, but it does a pretty good job, and of course saves you the time of having to type those out. P on the keyboard, P for pen. If you click on that, you'll get on this left-hand menu bar, with all the editing stuff, you'll get the pen. So there's different types of pen. You can edit the thickness and all that good stuff. You've got an eraser. So if you click on that and then just click somewhere and drag your cursor around, you can draw something. So click on the pen, make sure you've got one of these selected here, and then click and drag your mouse somewhere. Hopefully that's worked. Yep. There's a cool feature they've got here as well, which is smart drawing, which what you can do is you can draw and it'll automatically make your lines really straight, because if you're like me, they're all over the shop. So there we go. So if I want to make a good square, I can draw and it'll automatically make them nice and straight for me. Oh, didn't do that one right. I'll go Control Z. With the pen, you've got smart drawing and then a highlighter and then the traditional pen. So if you click on the smart drawing, you can use that feature. It's a nice feature, but we tend to use the shapes. If I wanted to make a square, I would just grab a shape and go like that. But again, it's a cool feature to have very straight lines, I guess. So the undo button, similar to all the other tools that we use, Control Z, or you can see in this bottom left-hand side of the screen, you've got this undo arrows and redo. But you'll find a lot of similarities with those sort of keyboard functions from PowerPoint and other Excel, Control Z, Control C, Control V, all those stuff translate across into Miro. Yep, so again, in those more apps area, there's lots of really cool stuff there. Admittedly, we don't use them too much, but lots of cool stuff. So inbuilt presentation tools now. So what these are, as you can see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, you've got a few buttons that I just wanted to talk through and I've highlighted there. So first of all, you've got this arrow with the two lines here. When you've got a bunch of people on a board, it can be quite distracting because you see all these people cursors flying around on the screen. So if you click that, all the cursors disappear. And that'll be really good if you're trying to read something that's on the board, you're trying to read a document or trying to read some ideas. That's a really good way. Or trying to read a presentation. That's a good way to make it a bit easier to read. As well as that, you can see that people on the board, you're able to see little circles and it logs who's on the board currently. So I can see David, Jill, Laurie, and yourself will always be here to the right. So what that acts as is a way to find those people and sort of navigate to them. So if I zoom out and go somewhere else and click on someone, it'll take me to wherever they are. And if they're following me, it'll take me to me. But if they're somewhere else, then on the board, it will take you to wherever they are. So for example, you're working with someone in a meeting and you're on a different side of the board to them and you want to see what they're seeing because whatever they're seeing sounds interesting and there's a discussion going on about it. If you go up here and find their name and then click, it'll take you to wherever their screen is and you'll see there'll be a big banner with a color saying you're following whoever. As soon as if you leave it, nothing, you'll follow that person wherever they move, as you can see here. As soon as you click on the screen or move your cursor, that banner goes away and I'm now not following that person. So following, as soon as I move and zoom in a bit, it goes away. So that's a really useful way to navigate the board as well. If you're, rather than sort of zooming in and zooming out and navigating to different areas of the board, if one person's comfortable, you can always follow that person and go to the next part of the board, next activity, next frame, whatever. As we've been going, I've been bringing people to me. So with the paid version of it, what you can do is you've got options to bring people to you. So this is good when you're facilitating and you want everyone to see what you're seeing right now. When you're presenting, you want people to be seeing what you're seeing. So I've brought people to me. It says I've got 4 people following me. So that's a really helpful feature. Alternatively, I can bring individual people to me. If I wanted David to see something in particular that I'm looking at, I can bring him to me as an individual. The final really good presentation tool that we use a lot is the timer. So up on the top here, there's these presentation tools and there's the timer. So you can pick how long you want your timer to go and then go start, and that will give you some feedback. Say you want a brainstorming activity to go for 5 minutes, you can add a timer up there and everyone that's on the board will be able to see that and have feedback as to how much time is left or how much time they've still got to go. It's really good to sort of get through agendas in your meeting to have stuff time boxed and use this tool in your workshops and Miro boards. Okay, so moving forward, what I wanted to go through now is one way to sort and categorize ideas are colors. Another way is through tags, and tags are a lot more useful and is what I would do as a go-to because of their ability to be exported. So what I'm going to do is actually go and create a tag for these ones. I'm going to call all of these ones test. I'm going to add a tag. So I've selected all these stickies and I can see that there's a natural theme, a natural group there. And I'm going to create a tag by going onto this menu bar and I'll call that test. So what it's done is this is a big library now of all these tags that are currently on the board. And you can see now all these stickies that I've tagged test. There's this little red tag on the bottom left-hand corner to show that. So why tags are really useful is if I were to now click and select all of these ideas and go and export them, go export to CSV Excel. It's going to do that for me. I'll click on it. So the logic of how it always comes out is the sticky note is on the left-hand side in column A, and the tag is in column B. So what it does is it gives you straight away these ideas in the left-hand column and whatever tag they had associated to them. And you can have many tags and it'll just look like this. So if I was to have another tag to say, it would look like this. Yeah. And that can go on forever. You can have as many tags as you want. If you were to select, as I have here, a bunch of sticky note, bunch of cells within Excel, Control V, you will have those sticky notes come up on the Miro board. What you can't do is import sticky notes with the tags already there. I would love for that feature to be added. But at this point, that's not possible. You can only add stickies untagged into Miro. Something we've done to get around that is to sort of concatenate and put tags potentially you may have, or themes or categories within a spreadsheet into one cell, perhaps. So say you had a spreadsheet like this and you've got different columns to the right, if you were to concatenate that into one cell and then copy that on, that would work. And you then get maybe that logic on your Miro board to be able to tag. But that would be something I would like on my wish list. I think it'd be at the top. Yeah, so tags are really useful. When you use colors to sort through sticky notes and analyze, you can't export that. And as I hope I've been trying to sort of reiterate, Miro boards, they have a lifespan often. You want to do stuff, export it, and then export whatever you've got into PowerPoint, into Excel, into Word, into PDF, into whatever you want to create that final deliverable outside of Miro, because that's not what Miro's made for. It's made for brainstorming, it's made for creativity and just putting ideas there and getting something out of it and moving on with it. Exporting. So I've already talked a bit about tags and exporting, but there's more to that. You can export up here. There's an export button next to the main menu, and there's a bunch of different options. So you can save as a PDF, save as an image. And what that means is it will only save everything that's in a frame as a PDF. So if you don't have anything in a frame, this won't be useful for you. But what you can do is anything that's in a frame, you can go save as a PDF, and it will save everything into a big PDF, almost a booklet of all these frames collected. We'll see how my internet goes with this export. Hopefully we'll get through. There we go. So as you can see, anything that's in a frame is captured as a bucket. It's a slide, and you can see the slides we presented before are there. If I keep going down to these slides we've been working on, you'll see that stickies that have been put on the board on top of the frames are all captured. So it's a really good way to just create quick minutes export of everything that was done into a nice PDF that's could be a final deliverable, because yeah, Miro boards aren't those final deliverables. You want to take them into something else. So there's Excel and there's the PDF. They're the big two ways to export. So finally, sharing a board. What you do there is in the top right-hand corner, there's the share button. It's in blue. So there's a few different options here. So you can share the board via a shared link, which is open to anyone to edit. That's what we've got at the moment, but I can equally change this to then people can only comment. So what I'll do is if I click that, people that are currently on the board with us now on the call, they won't be able to add sticky notes. They won't be able to add shapes. They will only be able to add comments, which is good if you want to limit the sort of what other people can edit on a board. Unfortunately, when you go to that level, you can't add sticky notes, and sticky notes are so useful when we do this that we often don't use that very often. It's always can edit. Equally can view, so they can't do anything except for just go around on the board and look around. And then you can turn it to no access as well. Hopefully if I bring it back, guys will come back with us. I just realized when I click that, the guys that are on the board, I've lost them. But yeah, so if you have a license, you've got the same functionalities at the team level of your Miro team. If you have a bunch of licenses, and you've got, depending on if you've got a license, you've got some other features as well there. You can set a password if you want privacy as well. And yeah, so if you go copy board link, if you want to be creating a board and sharing it with someone, you've just got this URL that you can share with someone. And in theory, you can share it with them. They can click on it and they'll be on the board in a couple seconds if you start a meeting and you want them to contribute onto something that you're doing. So that's everything, I think. Can probably stop the recording now and